The alien fleet descended quietly, almost gracefully, through the Earth's atmosphere. Their ships were sleek, glowing with an eerie blue light that made them look otherworldly. To anyone watching from below, it was both beautiful and terrifying. The aliens had arrived without warning, their massive vessels blotting out the sun over major cities across the globe. People stopped what they were doing, working, eating, playing, and stared up at the sky in disbelief. Zixer stood on the bridge of the largest ship, his sharp eyes scanning the planet beneath him. He felt confident, even smug. His species, the Vraxians, had conquered countless worlds before this one. Humanity, he thought, would be no different. They were primitive creatures, soft and unprepared for what was coming. They will crumble, Zixer said aloud to his second-in-command, Krellon, whom nodded in agreement. Their weapons are laughable compared to ours. But not everyone shared Zixer's certainty. Nira, a young scientist aboard the ship, watched the view screens with a mix of curiosity and unease. She had studied Earth from afar, poring over data about its inhabitants. Humans fascinated her, not because of their strength or technology, but because of something harder to measure. They were unpredictable. They fought back when logic dictated surrender. And now, seeing their blue-green planet up close, she couldn't shake the feeling that this invasion might not go as smoothly as planned. Down on Earth, life went on, at least for a little while longer. In a small town in the Midwest, Jason wiped grease off his hands as he worked under the hood of a car. He was a mechanic, known around town for fixing things others gave up on. Today, though, business was slow. Most people were glued to their TVs or phones, trying to figure out what the strange lights in the sky meant. Jason didn't pay much attention at first. Probably just some government test, he muttered to himself. But when the alien broadcast came, everything changed. It wasn't subtle. Every screen flickered to life. Every radio station crackled with the same message. A deep mechanical voice boomed, speaking perfect English. Attention, humans. You are inferior. Surrender your world or face destruction. The word sent chills down spines everywhere. Some people panicked, running into the streets screaming. Others froze, unable to process what they'd just heard. Jason dropped his wrench and stepped outside, looking up at the massive ship hovering above his town. For a moment, he felt small, insignificant. Then anger bubbled up inside him. Who do these guys think they are? He growled. Hundreds of miles away, in Chicago, Laura was dealing with chaos of her own. As a schoolteacher, she had been in the middle of class when the announcement interrupted. Her students, kids ranging from 8 to 10 years old, looked at her with wide, frightened eyes. "Ms. Harper, are we gonna die?" One boy asked, his voice trembling. Laura forced a smile, kneeling down to meet their gaze. "No," she said firmly. "We're going to stick together, okay? No matter what happens, we'll figure it out." By evening, the full scope of the situation became clear. The aliens weren't bluffing. Cities that resisted saw swift retaliation. Lasers rained down from the sky, reducing buildings to rubble. Entire neighborhoods burned. Yet, amid the devastation, something unexpected happened. Humanity began to fight back. In New York, a group of engineers repurposed old military drones to attack one of the smaller alien ships. It didn't destroy the vessel, but it damaged it enough to make the invaders take notice. Similar acts of defiance popped up worldwide, proving that humans weren't ready to give up without a fight. Jason found himself swept up in the resistance almost by accident. That night, as he sat in his garage tinkering with spare parts, his neighbor Chris burst in. "You hear about Detroit?" Chris asked breathlessly. When Jason shook his head, Chris explained how locals had banded together to ambush an alien patrol. Inspired, Jason decided to join forces with Chris and a few others to form a militia. They didn't have fancy weapons or training, but they had determination and a lot of scrap metal. Meanwhile, aboard the mothership, Nira continued to observe Earth with growing unease. She noticed how quickly humans adapted, turning ordinary tools into makeshift weapons. She saw videos of ordinary people risking their lives to protect strangers. It confused her. By all accounts, humans should have collapsed under the weight of fear and superior firepower. Instead, they rallied. They fought. They refused to quit. Kralon dismissed her concerns. "They're animals," he sneered during a briefing. "Animals can be hunted." But Nira wasn't so sure. There was something about humanity. A spark that couldn't be easily extinguished. As the days passed and reports of human resistance poured in, she began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, her people had underestimated their enemy. And somewhere deep inside, she started to question whether destroying Earth was truly the right thing to do. The aliens' message echoed across the globe, loud and unyielding. "Surrender your world, or face destruction." The ultimatum left no room for negotiation. Governments scrambled to respond, but their efforts were disjointed and chaotic. Some leaders tried to reason with the invaders through radio transmissions, pleading for peace. Others ordered military strikes, sending fighter jets and missiles toward the alien ships. But every attempt ended in failure. The alien vessels shrugged off attacks like they were nothing more than annoying insects buzzing around them. In Jason's small Midwest town, things were tense. People gathered in the streets, whispering about what to do next. Some wanted to flee, thinking they could outrun the invaders. Others argued that running wouldn't help. There was nowhere safe to go. Jason found himself caught between these two groups. He wasn't sure what the right answer was, but he knew one thing. Sitting around waiting for the aliens to come wasn't an option. When Chris showed up at his garage again, this time with a map of nearby towns marked with alien activity, Jason made up his mind. They needed to fight back. Jason's militia grew quickly. At first, it was just him, Chris, and a few neighbors. But word spread, and soon others joined. Farmers, shopkeepers, even teenagers eager to help. None of them had combat training, but they didn't let that stop them. Jason turned his garage into a makeshift workshop where everyone pitched in to build weapons from whatever they could find. Old car parts became armored shields. Scrap metal was welded into crude spears and knives. Someone even brought in fireworks, which Jason rigged to explode on impact. It wasn't much, but it gave them hope. Laura, too, was doing her part. In Chicago, she organized a network of volunteers to support those affected by the invasion. Schools had been shut down, leaving families stranded without food or supplies. Laura worked tirelessly, coordinating deliveries of canned goods, water, and medicine. She also set up safe houses where people could stay if their homes were destroyed. Her calm demeanor and practical thinking earned her respect, even from strangers who barely knew her name. But not everyone shared her optimism. One afternoon, as Laura sorted donations in a church basement, a man named Paul confronted her. "What's the point?" He snapped. "We're all gonna die anyway. You can't fight something like this." His words stung, but Laura refused to let him bring her down. "Maybe we can't win," she said firmly. "But giving up won't save us either. We have to try." Meanwhile, aboard the alien mothership, cracks began to form in the invaders' confidence. Mira watched the live feeds from Earth, her brow furrowed in thought. Humans were proving to be far more resourceful than anyone had anticipated. In Detroit, a group of civilians managed to disable an alien drone using little more than wires and magnets. In London, protesters marched through the streets, holding signs that read, "You will not break us." Even children were getting involved, throwing rocks and setting traps for alien patrols. Kralon dismissed these acts as insignificant. "They're desperate," he growled during a meeting. "Desperation doesn't make them dangerous." Zixer nodded in agreement, though his expression betrayed a flicker of doubt. Nira, however, couldn't shake the feeling that humanity's resilience posed a real threat. She spent hours analyzing human behavior, poring over historical records and videos of recent events. What she found fascinated her. Time and again, humans had faced overwhelming odds, and somehow They always found a way to survive. Her growing admiration for humanity put her at odds with her fellow officers. During one particularly heated argument, Krillon accused her of sympathizing with the enemy. "These creatures are beneath us," he spat. "Why waste time studying them?" Nira held her ground, though she knew speaking out could get her into trouble. "Because understanding them might be the key to defeating them," she replied calmly. Back on Earth, tensions reached a boiling point when an alien patrol entered Jason's town. The militia sprang into action, armed with their homemade weapons. Jason led the charge, shouting orders as they ambushed the patrol near an abandoned factory. The battle was short but intense. Lasers shot past their heads, narrowly missing them. One of Jason's friends, a farmer named Matt, was hit and fell to the ground, clutching his leg. But despite the danger, they'd managed to drive the aliens away, leaving behind a damaged drone as proof of their victory. As Jason and the others celebrated their success, they realized something important. The drone still had power. Its lights blinked faintly, and strange symbols scrolled across its surface. Jason didn't know what any of it meant, but he suspected it could be valuable. He decided to send it to Alex, a hacker friend of Chris's who lived in the city. If anyone could figure out how the alien technology worked, it was Alex. Unbeknownst to Jason, his actions caught the attention of someone else entirely. Nira had been monitoring the skirmish from the mothership. When she saw footage of the damaged drone being carried away, her heart raced. Humans weren't just fighting blindly. They were learning. And that changed everything. The damaged drone was heavy, but Jason and Chris didn't complain as they carried it to Alex's apartment in the city. The streets were eerily quiet, with most people staying indoors or fleeing to safer areas. Broken glass littered the sidewalks, and the faint smell of smoke lingered in the air. It was a grim reminder of how much had changed in such a short time. Still, Jason tried to stay focused. He believed the drone could be the key to turning the tide against the aliens. Alex greeted them at the door, his face pale but determined. He was younger than Jason expected, barely out of his teens, but his reputation as a skilled hacker was well known among the resistance. "You really think this thing can help us?" Alex asked, eyeing the drone skeptically. "It's worth a shot," Jason replied. "If we can figure out how it works, maybe we can use their own tech against them." For hours, Alex pored over the drone, his fingers flying across his laptop keyboard. Jason and Chris waited anxiously, pacing back and forth while Alex muttered to himself. Finally, he leaned back in his chair with a triumphant grin. "Got it," he said. On the screen was a series of strange symbols and codes, scrolling rapidly. "This is some kind of signal," Alex explained. "I think it's transmitting data back to their ships. If I can decode it, we might be able to track where it's coming from." The discovery gave the group a surge of hope. For the first time, they felt like they were gaining ground instead of just scrambling to survive. Jason immediately contacted Laura to share the news. She, in turn, spread the word to other resistance cells across the country. People who had been fighting separately now began working together, pooling their resources and knowledge. It was slow going, but the sense of unity made everyone feel stronger. Meanwhile, aboard the alien mothership, Nira continued to monitor humanity's progress. She couldn't shake the feeling that something big was about to happen. The humans were adapting faster than anyone had predicted, and their determination was starting to unnerve even the most confident Fraxians. During one meeting, Zixer slammed his fist on the table in frustration. "Why haven't we crushed them yet?" he demanded. "Their weapons are primitive. Their tactics are amateurish." Krillon sneered. "They're animals, leader. Animals fight until they're dead." But Nira disagreed. "That's exactly why we're struggling," she said carefully, choosing her words to avoid angering him. "They don't follow logic. They don't surrender when they should. That makes them unpredictable and dangerous." Her comments earned her icy glares from Krillon, but Nira didn't back down. She knew she was right. Humans weren't just surviving. They were learning. And every day they grew bolder. Reports kept coming in about ambushes, sabotages, and even attempts to infiltrate alien outposts. One particularly troubling incident involved a group of farmers who lured an entire patrol into a trap using fake distress signals. By the time the aliens realized what was happening, it was too late. Back on Earth, Jason and his team prepared for their next move. Thanks to Alex's decoding efforts, they had pinpointed the location of a nearby alien outpost. It wasn't heavily guarded, making it a prime target. If they could destroy it, they might weaken the invaders' hold on the region. Jason called a meeting with the militia to lay out the plan. "We hit them fast and hard," he said. "No hesitation, no second guessing. We do this for Matt, and for everyone else they've hurt." The night of the attack, the air was thick with tension. Jason led the group silently through the woods, their makeshift weapons clutched tightly in their hands. When they reached the outpost, they saw that it was smaller than expected. A cluster of glowing pods surrounded by a low wall of energy. Alien guards patrolled lazily, clearly not expecting trouble. Taking a deep breath, Jason signaled for the attack to begin. Chaos erupted. The humans charged forward, shouting and throwing whatever they could get their hands on. Rocks, spears, and Molotov cocktails rained down on the surprised aliens. The energy barrier flickered and collapsed under the assault, giving the militia access to the pods inside. Jason spotted a control panel and smashed it with a wrench, causing sparks to fly. The outpost began to collapse, its systems overloaded. As the group retreated into the forest, cheers broke out. They had done it. They had struck a real blow against the invaders. But their celebration was short-lived. Back at camp, they learned that another town had been attacked, leaving dozens dead. The war was far from over. Nira watched the footage of the destroyed outpost, her heart pounding. Humanity's ability to adapt and resist was remarkable and terrifying. She realized that if things continued like this, the Vraxians might not win after all. For the first time, she wondered if there was another way. Could peace be possible? Or was destruction the only path forward? As the days passed, both sides braced for what came next. The humans had proven they wouldn't give up easily. And the aliens, once so confident, were beginning to doubt their own superiority. The victory at the alien outpost gave Jason and his militia a much-needed boost of confidence. For days, they celebrated their success, sharing stories of the attack around campfires and planning their next moves. But Jason knew they couldn't rest for long. The aliens weren't going to let them win without a fight. Every small victory came with a cost, and the invaders were growing more aggressive by the day. One morning, while Jason was inspecting the damaged drone again, Alex rushed into the garage, his face pale but excited. "I found something," he said breathlessly. He opened his laptop and pointed to a map on the screen. "This signal from the drone. It's not just random noise. It's coordinates, specific locations where the aliens are setting up their bases. One of them looks like it could be a central command hub." Jason's eyes widened. A command hub would be a game changer, if they could find it. And disable it. They might cripple the aliens' operations in the region. But getting there wouldn't be easy. The location Alex had identified was deep in enemy territory, heavily guarded and far from any human-resistant strongholds. Still, Jason didn't hesitate. "We need to hit it," he said firmly. "If we can take out their command center, we'll have a real chance." Word spread quickly among the militia. Some were hesitant, knowing the risks involved. Others, like Chris, were eager to join the mission. "We've come this far," Chris said. "We can't stop now." Jason spent hours going over the plan with everyone who volunteered, making sure they understood the dangers. They would travel light, moving mostly at night to avoid detection. Their weapons were still crude, but they had learned how to use them effectively. While the humans prepared, Nira faced her own challenges aboard the mothership. She had been monitoring the resistance closely, watching as they pieced together clues about the command hub. Her unease grew with each passing day. Humans were proving to be smarter and more resourceful than anyone had anticipated. When she saw footage of Jason and his group loading supplies into trucks, she realized what they were planning. They were going after the command hub. Nira knew she had to act. If the humans succeeded in destroying the hub, it could destabilize the entire invasion. But warning Zixer or Kurlon wasn't an option. They would never listen to her. Instead, she decided to sabotage key systems aboard the ship, hoping to buy humanity some time. Late one night, when most of the crew was asleep, she snuck into the engineering bay and tampered with the communication relays. The interference wouldn't last long, but it would delay reinforcements from reaching the command hub. Her actions didn't go unnoticed. Krellon caught her leaving the bay and confronted her immediately. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, his voice cold and sharp. Nara froze, her mind racing for an excuse. I thought I heard something unusual," she stammered. "I wanted to check it out." Krellon studied her carefully, his suspicion clear. "You're hiding something," he said finally. "Don't think I won't find out what it is." Back on Earth, Jason and his team set out under the cover of darkness. The journey was grueling, with long stretches of walking through dense forests and open fields. Supplies were limited, and everyone was exhausted, but no one complained. They all knew what was at stake. Along the way, they encountered other groups of survivors, some of whom joined their cause. Laura even managed to send a message of encouragement, reminding them that people across the country were counting on them. When they finally reached the outskirts of the command hub, the sight was daunting. The facility was massive, surrounded by towering walls of energy and patrolled by dozens of alien drones. Jason gathered the group together for one last briefing. "We only get one shot at this," he said. "Stick to the plan, stay close, and don't stop until we reach the control room." Everyone nodded, their faces grim but determined. As they moved closer, Jason noticed something strange. The energy barriers seemed weaker than expected. At first, he thought it might be a trap, but then he remembered Nura. Could she have done something to help them? He pushed the thought aside, focusing on the task ahead. With Alex guiding them via radio, they slipped past the outer defenses and made their way inside. The interior of the hub was a maze of glowing corridors and humming machinery. Alien guards patrolled the halls, forcing the group to move cautiously. At one point, they were nearly discovered, but quick thinking saved them. Chris threw a rock down a side corridor, drawing the guards away long enough for the others to slip past unnoticed. Finally, they reached the control room. It was filled with blinking panels and strange symbols, none of which made sense to Jason. "Alex, we're in," he whispered into his radio. "Now what?" "Look for a large console with a red symbol," Alex replied. "That's the main power source. Disable it, and the whole place will shut down." Jason scanned the room and spotted the console. He motioned for the others to cover him as he approached it. Using a wrench, he began smashing the panel, sparks flying everywhere. Alarms blared almost instantly, and the sound of approaching footsteps echoed down the hallway. "Go," Jason shouted. "Get out of here." As the group fled, explosions rocked the facility behind them. The command hub was collapsing, just as they had hoped. Though they barely escaped with their lives, they knew they had dealt a major blow to the invaders. For the first time, victory felt possible. Unbeknownst to them, Nira watched the chaos unfold from the safety of the mothership. Her heart raced as the hub went dark. Humanity had done it. They had struck a devastating blow. And for the first time, she allowed herself to hope that maybe, just maybe, the humans could win after all. The destruction of the command hub sent shockwaves through both sides of the conflict. For Jason and his group, it was a moment of triumph, but also a sobering reminder of how much still lay ahead. The explosion had been massive, lighting up the night sky like a second sun. As they retreated into the woods, coughing from the smoke and adrenaline still coursing through their veins, Jason couldn't help but feel proud of what they'd accomplished. But pride quickly gave way to worry. The aliens wouldn't take this lying down. Retaliation was inevitable. Back at the makeshift camp, the mood was tense. Everyone knew the victory came at a cost. 2 members of the team hadn't made it out alive. One was Ryan, a quiet man who had joined the militia just weeks earlier. At first glance, he seemed like any other volunteer, eager to help, willing to risk everything for the cause. But as the group regrouped around a flickering fire, whispers began to spread. Someone mentioned seeing Ryan slip away during the attack, heading in the opposite direction. Others recalled how he always seemed nervous, glancing over his shoulder as if waiting for something or someone. It didn't take long for the truth to come out. Laura arrived at the camp late that night, her face pale and drawn. She carried a message from a nearby town. Ryan had betrayed them. He had contacted the aliens before the mission, revealing their plans. That was why the energy barriers had seemed weaker than expected. It wasn't sabotage by Nira. It was a trap set by the invaders. If not for Jason's quick thinking and sheer luck, the entire team might have been captured or killed. Jason felt anger boiling inside him, but there was no time to dwell on betrayal. The aliens were already moving, sweeping through the area with renewed ferocity. Patrols scoured the woods, searching for survivors. Drones hovered overhead, their lights cutting through the darkness. Jason ordered everyone to split up, scattering in small groups to avoid detection. "Stay low, stay quiet," he said. "We'll meet back at the safe house in 3 days." For Laura, the next few days were a blur of fear and exhaustion. She traveled alone, sticking to back roads and avoiding towns where alien activity was high. Along the way, she encountered families hiding in basements and abandoned buildings, desperate for food and medicine. Despite the danger, she stopped to help whenever she could, sharing what little supplies she had. Her kindness inspired others to keep going, even when hope felt impossibly far away. Meanwhile, aboard the mothership, tensions reached a breaking point. Zixar was furious about the loss of the command hub. How could this happen? He roared during an emergency meeting. Kralon pointed a finger at Nira. "She's been acting strangely," he said, "sneaking around, tampering with systems. I think she's responsible." Nira clenched her fists, forcing herself to remain calm. "I've done nothing wrong," she said firmly. "But I warned you humans are dangerous. Underestimating them is a mistake." Her words fell on deaf ears. Zixar ordered increased patrols and harsher punishments for human resistance fighters. Anyone caught opposing the Vraxians would be executed on the spot. Krellon smirked, clearly enjoying the chaos. But Nira saw the cracks forming within their ranks. More and more crew members were questioning Zixar's leadership, whispering about how poorly the invasion was going. She realized she could use this to her advantage. When the opportunity arose, Nira took it. During a routine inspection of the ship's weapon systems, she secretly disabled several key components. The sabotage wasn't enough to cripple the fleet, but it slowed the aliens' response time significantly. It bought humanity precious hours. Hours that Jason and his group desperately needed. On the 3rd day, the scattered militia members began trickling into the safe house. Jason greeted each one with relief, though his heart sank every time someone didn't show up. By nightfall, only half the original team had returned. Among the missing was Chris, Jason's closest friend and ally. "He wouldn't leave us behind," Jason said, pacing anxiously. Something must have happened. As dawn broke, Chris finally appeared, limping and covered in dirt. He collapsed onto the floor, gasping for air. "They found me," he managed to say. "Ambush. Barely got away." His leg was badly injured, but he insisted on staying with the group. "We can't stop now," he said weakly. "Not after everything we've done." The safe house wasn't safe for long. The aliens tracked them down, surrounding the building with drones and armed guards. Escape seemed impossible. That's when Laura stepped forward, holding a stolen alien weapon. "You need to go," she told Jason and the others. "I'll hold them off." Jason shook his head. "No way. We're not leaving you." But Laura's expression was resolute. "This isn't about me," she said softly. "It's about giving humanity a fighting chance." With tears in their eyes, Jason and the others fled through a hidden tunnel as Laura stood her ground. Gunfire erupted behind them, followed by explosions. They didn't look back. When they emerged miles away, they knew Laura had given her life to save theirs. Her sacrifice weighed heavily on all of them, but it also strengthened their resolve. They couldn't let her bravery be in vain. Nira watched the footage of the battle at the safe house, her hands trembling. Humanity's willingness to die for one another baffled her and awed her. She realized then that the fight wasn't just about winning or losing. It was about something deeper, something worth protecting. And for the first time, she truly understood why the humans refused to give up. The loss of Laura hit the group hard. Jason felt a deep ache in his chest every time he thought about her final moments. How she had stood alone against an overwhelming force, giving the others a chance to escape. It wasn't fair, but war rarely was. Still, they couldn't afford to stop and grieve. The aliens were relentless, and every second counted. Jason reminded himself that Laura's sacrifice had bought them time and hope. They owed it to her to keep fighting. Back at a new safe house, hidden deep in the woods, the group regrouped. Chris's leg was healing slowly, though he walked with a limp. Alex worked tirelessly on the damaged drone, trying to extract more information from its systems. "There's got to be something else we can use," he muttered, typing furiously. Jason paced nearby, thinking about their next move. Destroying the command hub had been a major victory, but it wasn't enough. They needed to strike at the heart of the alien fleet, the mothership itself. Nira, aboard the mothership, wrestled with her own thoughts. She had seen humanity's courage firsthand, not just in battle, but in acts of selflessness like Laura's. Her doubts about the invasion grew stronger with each passing day. When she overheard Zixer planning a massive attack on Earth's remaining resistance cells, she knew she had to act. This wasn't just about delaying reinforcements anymore. It was about stopping the slaughter altogether. Late one night, Nira sneaked into the communications bay. Using her access codes, she transmitted a message to Earth. It was risky. Kralon or another officer could walk in at any moment. But she didn't care. The message contained vital intel about the mothership's layout, weak points in its defenses, and the timing of the planned assault. She encrypted it carefully, hoping someone on Earth would find and decipher it. On the ground, Alex's laptop pinged unexpectedly. A strange signal appeared on the screen, unlike anything they'd seen before. "What is this?" Jason asked, peering over Alex's shoulder. "It's coming from the mothership," Alex replied, his voice trembling with excitement. He quickly decrypted the message, revealing detailed maps and coordinates. "This is insane," Alex said. "Someone up there is helping us." Jason's mind raced. Whoever sent the message clearly wanted to aid humanity, but trusting an alien source was dangerous. What if it was a trap? Still, the information was too valuable to ignore. After discussing it with the group, they decided to take the risk. With Alex's guidance, they began planning an audacious mission: infiltrate the mothership and disable its main power core. If they succeeded, it could cripple the entire alien fleet. Nira's actions aboard the mothership didn't go unnoticed. Kralon, suspicious of her behavior for days, finally caught her red-handed. He stormed into the communications bay, his eyes blazing with fury. "What are you doing?" he demanded. Nira froze, her hands still hovering over the console. For a moment, panic gripped her. Then she straightened, meeting his gaze with defiance. "I'm trying to prevent a massacre," she said calmly. "You call yourselves superior, but all you do is destroy. Is that really what you want?" Kralon sneered. "You're a traitor," he spat. Before she could respond, he raised his weapon. But Nira was faster. She grabbed a nearby tool and swung it at him, knocking him off balance. The two struggled briefly, but Nira managed to slip away, disappearing into the labyrinthine corridors of the ship. Kralon shouted for backup, but by then, she was already gone. Nira knew she couldn't hide forever. Instead, she sought out sympathetic crew members, Vraxians who shared her doubts about the invasion. To her surprise, she found more allies than she expected. Many were tired of the endless bloodshed and disillusioned with Zixer's leadership. Together, they formed a small rebellion, determined to sabotage key systems and aid humanity however they could. Meanwhile, Jason and his team prepared for the infiltration mission. They gathered supplies, studied the maps provided by Nira, and rehearsed their plan until they could do it in their sleep. The journey to the mothership would be perilous, requiring them to sneak past patrols and avoid detection. Once aboard, they would split into two groups, one to disable the power core, the other to create distractions. As they approached the massive vessel, cloaked in darkness and armed with stolen alien weapons, Jason felt a mix of fear and determination. This was their best shot at ending the war, but also their most dangerous mission yet. "Stay sharp," he whispered to the group as they slipped inside. "And remember why we're here." The interior of the mothership was eerily quiet, filled with glowing panels and strange machinery. Jason led the way, following the map Alex had uploaded to his device. So far, so good. But as they neared the power core, alarms suddenly blared, echoing through the halls. Someone had triggered a security system. "Move," Jason shouted, breaking into a run. The group split up as planned, drawing attention away from the core. Gunfire erupted around them, and chaos ensued. Despite the odds, they pushed forward, driven by the memory of those they had lost, and the hope of a brighter future. Unbeknownst to them, Nira watched from a distance, guiding them subtly through hacked security feeds. Humanity and a handful of Vraxian rebels were working together now, united by a shared goal. For the first time, victory seemed possible, not just for Earth, but for peace between species. The alarms blared louder as Jason and his team raced through the twisting corridors of the alien mothership. Every step felt like a gamble, every corner a potential ambush. The stolen alien weapons in their hands were unfamiliar but functional, giving them a fighting chance against the Vraxian guards. Still, the odds were stacked heavily against them. For every guard they took down, two more seemed to appear, their glowing weapons casting eerie shadows on the walls. Jason's heart pounded as he led the group toward the power core. "Stick to the plan," he shouted over the noise. He glanced at Chris, who was limping but still pushing forward, clutching his weapon tightly. Alex stayed close behind, holding a tablet that displayed the map Nira had sent. The device flickered occasionally, its signal disrupted by the ship's systems, but it was enough to guide them. Jason didn't know who had helped them from inside the ship, but he silently thanked them for the lifeline. As they neared the core, the resistance split into two groups. Jason and Chris went with one team to disable the power source, while Alex led the others to create distractions. The second group fired wildly at approaching guards, drawing attention away from the main objective. Their bravery was unmatched, even as laser blasts singed the air around them. One member of the distraction team, a young woman named Sarah, was hit and fell to the ground, but she urged the others to keep going. "Don't stop for me," she yelled before disappearing into the chaos. Jason pushed forward, his mind focused solely on reaching the power core. When they finally arrived, the room was massive, filled with towering machinery and pulsating energy streams. In the center stood the core itself, a glowing orb surrounded by intricate panels. "This is it," Jason said, his voice tight with urgency. "We need to shut it down." Chris grabbed a tool from his belt and began working on the panel while Jason kept watch. Moments later, a squad of Vraxian soldiers stormed into the room, weapons raised. Jason fired back, his shots hitting their targets but barely slowing them down. The aliens' armor was tough, but humanity's determination was tougher. "Hurry," Jason shouted to Chris, who was frantically trying to disable the core. Meanwhile, aboard the ship, Nira moved quickly through the corridors, her heart racing. She had seen the humans' progress on the security feeds and knew they were close to succeeding. But Kralin and his forces were closing in, determined to stop them. Nira reached a control panel near the power core and hacked into the system, causing temporary blackouts in key areas of the ship. The confusion gave Jason's team precious seconds to finish their task. "Got it!" Chris yelled as the core began to flicker. A loud hum filled the room, growing louder with each passing second. Alarms screamed, and red lights flashed everywhere. The power core was destabilizing, and the entire ship shook violently. "Let's go," Jason shouted, grabbing Chris and pulling him toward the exit. They ran as fast as they could, dodging falling debris and collapsing walkways. Nira met them halfway, appearing suddenly in the corridor. Her presence startled Jason, but there was no time for questions. "Follow me," she said urgently, leading them through a hidden passage. The group followed without hesitation, trusting her despite the circumstances. Behind them, explosions rocked the ship, sending shockwaves through the halls. The power core was imploding, taking large sections of the mothership with it. As they reached an escape pod bay, Nira turned to face them. "You need to leave now," she said. "I'll stay and make sure no one follows you." Jason hesitated, looking at her with gratitude and disbelief. "Why are you helping us?" he asked. Nira smiled faintly. "Because your fight, it's worth something. Something my people forgot long ago." Before Jason could respond, Kralin appeared, his weapon aimed directly at Nira. "Traitor," he snarled. Without thinking, Jason stepped forward, shielding Nira with his body. "Run," he told her. Nira nodded and slipped into the shadows just as Kralin opened fire. Jason returned fire, forcing Kralin to retreat momentarily. It was enough for the humans to board the escape pod and launch themselves clear of the dying ship. As the pod hurtled away, the group watched in awe as the mothership erupted in a brilliant explosion, lighting up the sky like a second sun. Pieces of the wreckage rained down, signaling the end of the Vraxian fleet's dominance. Cheers broke out among the survivors, though they were bittersweet. Too many lives had been lost, both human and alien. Back on Earth, news of the mothership's destruction spread quickly. Resistance cells celebrated cautiously, knowing the war wasn't over yet, but for the first time in months, hope burned brightly. Laura's sacrifice, Ryan's betrayal, and countless other struggles hadn't been in vain. Humanity had proven it could stand against impossible odds and win. For Nira, hiding deep within the remnants of the mothership, the battle was far from finished. She had chosen a side, and she knew there would be consequences. But as she gazed at the blue-green planet below, she felt a sense of peace. Maybe coexistence was possible after all. And maybe, just maybe, humanity's resilience could teach her people a lesson they desperately needed to learn. The explosion of the mothership lit up the night sky, a fiery end to the Vraxians' invasion. On Earth, people emerged from their hiding places, staring at the spectacle in awe. For months, they had lived in fear of the aliens, but now, for the first time, they dared to believe that the nightmare might be over. The resistance fighters who had risked everything felt a mix of relief and sorrow. They had won a great victory, but it had come at a cost. Too many lives had been lost, too many sacrifices made. Jason stood on a hill overlooking what was left of his town, watching the glowing debris fall like strange stars. His hands were blistered from battle, his body exhausted, but his mind wouldn't rest. He thought about Laura, Chris, and all the others who had fought alongside him. They had given so much to protect humanity. Jason whispered a silent thank you to them, knowing he could never repay their bravery. News of the mothership's destruction spread quickly, carried by radio signals and word of mouth. Resistance groups across the globe celebrated cautiously, wary of any remaining alien forces. But as the days passed, it became clear that the Vraxian fleet was in disarray. Without the mothership to coordinate their attacks, the invaders retreated, leaving Earth battered but free. People began rebuilding their homes, planting crops, and caring for the wounded. It was slow work, but there was hope in every hammer strike and every shared meal. Nira, meanwhile, hid aboard one of the surviving alien ships, her heart heavy with guilt and uncertainty. She knew she couldn't return to her people, not after what she had done. Helping humanity had been the right choice, but it came with consequences. When Sixer discovered her betrayal, he ordered her arrest, calling her a disgrace to their species. Krylon led the search personally, vowing to make her pay for her actions. Nira stayed hidden, moving silently through the ship's darkened corridors, relying on sympathetic crew members to smuggle her food and supplies. One day, as she crouched in a storage compartment, Nira heard footsteps approaching. Her breath caught in her throat, but instead of Krylon or his soldiers, it was Alex. Somehow, he had tracked her down using the signal from her encrypted messages. "You don't have to hide anymore," he said softly, holding out a hand. "We can protect you." At first, Nira hesitated. Trusting humans still felt strange, even after everything they had done. But Alex's kindness reminded her of why she had helped them in the first place. Slowly, she took his hand and stepped into the light. Together, they made their way back to Earth, where Jason and the others welcomed her cautiously but warmly. "You saved us," Jason said simply. "Now let us help you." Life on Earth wasn't easy for Mira. Many humans distrusted her, seeing her as just another alien invader. But over time, she proved herself through small acts of kindness and hard work. She used her knowledge of Vraxian technology to repair broken machines, create new tools, and even develop ways to grow crops faster. Her efforts earned her grudging respect, and eventually, friendship. As weeks turned into months, humanity began to heal. Towns rebuilt themselves stronger than before, powered by the same determination that had driven them to resist the Vraxians. Jason returned to his garage, fixing cars and teaching kids how to build things. Chris recovered enough to join him, though he walked with a permanent limp. Laura's memory lived on in the safe houses she had organized, now transformed into community centers where people gathered to share stories and support each other. Nira often joined them, marveling at how resilient humans were. Despite everything they had endured, they found joy in simple moments: laughter around a campfire, children playing in the streets, families sharing meals. It was a stark contrast to the cold efficiency of Vraxian society, where emotions were seen as weaknesses. Nira realized that perhaps her people weren't superior after all. Maybe they had much to learn from humanity. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Jason sat with Nira on the porch of his repaired house. "Do you think they'll come back?" he asked, nodding toward the sky. Nira paused, considering the question. "Maybe," she admitted, "but if they do, you'll be ready." Jason smiled faintly. "Yeah, and this time, we'll have friends on our side." For the first time since arriving on Earth, Nira felt a sense of belonging. She didn't know what the future held, for humanity, for her people, or for herself, but she was willing to face it. Together, they had proven that even in the darkest times, hope could shine through. And maybe, just maybe, peace was possible after all.